Tell me, what do you know about Yoko Ono? Here's what most people say. She broke up the Beatles, Lennon's wife. That's weird Japanese woman who screams at concerts. And that's it. That's the whole person. An entire life squeezed into 3 clichés. But here's the thing. When Yoko Ono met John Lennon in 1966 in London, she was already an established artist, already showing work in galleries, already performing alongside John Cage and Marcel Duchamp. Lennon just walked into her exhibition like any regular visitor off the street. So today let's try flipping the story. Who is Yoko Ono? If you take away everything we think we already know.
I know his fear and loneliness. He can do no more, no less.
February 18, 1933, Tokyo. A banker named Eisuke Ono has a daughter. Her name is Yoko. The family isn't just wealthy. This is Japanese aristocracy in the most literal sense. Her mother's family belonged to the Yasuda clan, one of the most powerful financial dynasties in Japanese history. Her father was a pianist who became a banker. Her mother was the kind of woman who kept her distance, even from her own children. Yoko's childhood is constant motion between two worlds. Tokyo, San Francisco. Tokyo again, New York. She studies at the elite Gakushuin school, the same institution that educated members of the imperial family. She gets into the philosophy program, the first woman ever admitted to it. Then she drops out and moves to New York. Here's a story she told herself. It's World War II. Tokyo is being bombed. The family has been evacuated to the countryside. There's almost no food. Her little brother is hungry and miserable. And Yoko invents a game. She says, let's pretend we are eating. What do you want for dinner? Ice cream? Okay, let's imagine our ice cream dinner. And her brother starts to smile. She'd said later that was her first work of art, an imaginary meal for a hungry child. An idea with no physical form, but one that actually worked. That moment is where her entire philosophy comes from. Art lives in the mind, not on the canvas. Yoko is 20 years old. She enrolls at Sarah Lawrence College just outside New York City, studying music and poetry. New York at that time isn't just a city, it's a pressure cooker for new art. John Cage is running his legendary experimental composition classes. Fluxus, an international movement of artists determined to erase the line between art and everyday life, is just beginning to take shape, and Yoko ends up right at the center of it. In 1916, she rents a loft on Chambers Street in Lower Manhattan and, together with composer La Monte Young, starts hosting concerts and performances there. That was a radical move. Nobody was putting on shows in studio apartments back then. Young later claimed sole credit for the entire series. His name was on every program, every invitation. Ono's name was nowhere. She paid the rent. She came up with the idea, but in the official record, she didn't exist. That was the first time, not the last. John Cage came to their events. Marcel Duchamp, Peggy Guggenheim, Jasper Johns, people who would go on to define 20th century art, sitting on the floor, watching the performances. In 1961, George Matsunas, the founder of Fluxus, gives her her first solo show at AG Gallery in New York. One of the works is called Painting to be Stepped On. Canvas on the floor, and viewers are invited to walk across it. No technical skill, no brushwork, just an idea. That's her style. In 1964, Yoko Ono publishes a book. It's called Grapefruit. It's a book of instructions. Light a match and watch till it goes out. Imagine the clouds dripping. Dig a hole in your garden to put them in. Select a clock. Set it on time. Call it your life clock. Live accordingly. The first edition came out in Tokyo, 500 copies, basically self-published. Conceptual art as a movement wouldn't fully emerge until the following decade, but Yoko was already doing this in the early 60s. One art critic wrote later, her approach only became acceptable when Kossuth and Weiner came along and did virtually the same thing, but made it respectable and collectible. And by the way, the song Imagine grew directly out of this book. Lennon admitted it himself shortly before his death.
Actually, that should be credited as a Lennon Ono song because a lot of it, the lyric and the concept came from Yoko. But it was right out of Grapefruit, her book. There's a whole pile of pieces about imagine this and imagine that, and give her credit now, long overdue.
In 2017, 46 years later, she finally received a co-writing credit. Summer 1964, Kyoto, Japan. Yoko walks onto a stage. She sits down in seiza, the traditional Japanese kneeling position. She places a pair of scissors in front of her, and she goes completely still. The audience is told, you may come up on stage and cut a piece of her clothing, one at a time. And they come. Someone cuts a small piece on her sleeve. Someone else takes a wall section of fabric. Yoko doesn't move, doesn't speak, stares at a fixed point in front of her. The performance is called cut piece. It would go down in history as one of the earliest works of feminist art. Yoko would explain it later. I was saying, this is what you do to women. We all go through this. But instead of fighting it, let it happen. By not resisting, you show them that the whole world could exist based on peace. When the performance moved to Carnegie Hall in New York, the audience reacted completely differently. Some people were aggressive, some were gentle. One man came up twice. In that gap between reactions, that's where the work lives. Okay, now, Lennon. Can't skip him. 1966, London. The Indica Gallery. Yoko is still setting up the show. It's the night before the opening, and Lennon walks in. The gallery owner had told him about the exhibition, mentioned something interesting was going on. Among the works, a white ladder going all the way up to the ceiling. At the top, there's a glass panel, and on it, in tiny letters, a single word. You can only read it through a magnifying glass on a chain. Lennon grabs the magnifying glass, reads. It says, yes. And he thinks, okay, this is something different. Then they start talking, then working together, then living together.
Mrs. Lennon, oh Mrs. Lennon, making the tea and watching the sea.
John and Yoko get married. Their honeymoon becomes a political performance. They check into the Hilton in Amsterdam, get into bed and invite the press. The journalists were expecting a scandal. Instead, they got two people in pajamas, calmly talking about Vietnam. The press laughed. Critics called it absurd, but the absurdity made the front pages of every major newspaper in the world. Yoko explained it herself. It was like a TV commercial. Everyone talks trash about commercials, but everyone remembers them. We were selling peace the same way you sell a product. It was her old avant-garde strategy. Repackage an idea so it reaches places regular art never gets to. December 8, 1980, John Lennon is shot and killed outside their home in New York. Yoko is there. She's 47 years old. The following year, she releases an album called Season of Glass. The cover shows Lennon's blood-stained glasses. The world was outraged. Too brutal, too raw. But that was her. Even in grief, a statement. Even in pain, a work.
Goodbye, goodbye, sadness. I can't take it anymore.
She doesn't disappear, doesn't go quiet. She keeps making music, keeps staging exhibitions, keeps talking about peace. In 2003, she performs Cut Peace again, in Paris, after the start of the Iraq War. She's 70 years old. She sits on the stage again, goes silent again. Starting in 1996, she creates wish tree installations. Trees where visitors tie small pieces of paper with their wishes written on them. The idea came from her childhood. That's how it's done at Japanese temples and shrines, going back centuries. Every piece of paper from every installation around the world gets sent to Iceland, to the imagined peace tower she built in 2007 on a small island off the coast of Reykjavik. There are now over 1 million wishes stored there. In 2009, the Golden Lion for Lifetime Achievement at the Venice Biennale. 2 Grammys, 2 Juno Awards, an Emmy. But let's come back to where we started. When you hear the name Yoko Ono, what's the first thing that comes to mind? She talks about this without bitterness, more like a quiet smile. In her book Just Me, she writes about herself without Lennon at the center. Just an artist, just a person with a story. Maybe she just arrived too early. In a world that didn't know what to do with her, it was easier to make her someone else's story. Right now, Yoko Ono is 93 years old. She lives mostly away from the public eye. In spring 2026, her major retrospective music is running at the Broad Museum in Los Angeles, her first solo show in Southern California. At 93, she is still present. And one more thing, since we started with that woman who screams into the microphone. That scream has a name. It's called the Plastic Ono Band. The group she and Lennon formed in 1969. Her vocal style, those wails, shrieks, raw cries comes directly from hetai, an ancient Japanese vocal techniques used in kabuki theater. A highly expressive, strained sound that pushes the voice to its physical limit. It also draws from the operas of Alban Berg and later from the primal scream therapy she and Lennon went through together in 1970. Sean Lennon put it this way: "Some of the ways my mom sings is almost like a baby crying. My father was very influenced by that. You can hear it in songs like Mother. He screams at the end. Mama, don't go! If you want to go deeper, pick up her book, Grapefruit. You can open it to any page, and from any page, it'll be strange, funny, and somehow a little bit about you. That's all for now. Bye-bye.